Remember that bit in there where they sort of like laughed about diversity, and then he went, "Hang on a second, diversity, guys. Do you not want the best pilots?" And they went, "Oh yeah," like fucking seal. So we're going to flick through some things today and just try, and I've got so much I could talk about, but we'd be here for hours, and I really, really mean that. I want to talk about where D&I sort of started from, and it's within the civil service. So if you ever think, oh, the government's so racist and divisive, it's not. It's the little activists within the civil service. The government is a veneer over the top. If we change Labour, we change... So it doesn't matter. The civil service here, they still run the country. And of course, the long march through the institutions, we have all these little Marxists in there that are trying to bring us back into socialism, because in their idiotic skulls, they believe this to be the right thing. I'm going to jump through some pictures. I'm going to jump through some news stories. And I also want to talk to you about why we are blaming Gen Z for everything. The first thing really is just to say that the military is struggling for talent, because it's just called every white guy racist and every white guy misogynistic and everything else. And then it wonders why white guys aren't joining, when white guys overwhelmingly were the demographic within the military for a very long time. If you think that we can do what the Royal Air Force is trying to do with 40% women and 20% minorities in the military, you're wrong. It won't ever work, and I can explain exactly why, and I do explain to a lot of people, and it's to do with the fact that women have children, and then when they have children, they don't tend to come back to such demanding careers as the military. They tend to do something else. It just is what we call a fact, but don't worry about that too much. I'm not against women. I trained a lot of women pilots up. They were just as good as men. They just didn't stay as long. And so when you invest in the training, of course, we don't necessarily get that return. What we're doing here is we're saying, look, we just can't get the talent to come in. And then, of course, what the talent's doing, what Gen Z is doing is looking at all these things the adults did. It's saying, oh, systematic failures found in MOD vehicle. Oh, that's interesting. How much did that project waste? 5.5 billion. Gen Z aren't interested in that. And then Gen Z looks at it and says, oh, you're retiring the Hercules, are you? And you're replacing it with an A400 that was some kind of European project. Why would you do that? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. You would never get rid of the Hercules. Every single person that you'll ever speak to in the military would go, well, that's just a bone idea, mate. You'd never get rid of the Herc. It's not even that expensive to keep in comparison to the A400. Why would you throw it away? Oh, because you want to get close to Europe. Dissident civil service, activism. That's what I'm saying. The Navy does have 2 aircraft carriers. If you go back about a decade, it was told, look, you could have aircraft carriers, you could have personnel. And the Navy chose, well, I'll have aircraft carriers. Really nice big project. Well, you've got your carriers, mate. You just can't man them. That's the issue. You've got no money to man them. It was always a problem. And Tom here, or it's a very nice article. He's a good guy, Tom. And he says, look, the carriers are incredible. We should be proud of them. Absolutely. Although one of them technically has broken straight away. They are supported by the Royal Fleet Auxiliary of other ships that come and they do stuff and they refuel them and they supply them. But of course, we're downgrading that. We're removing some of those ships. So Gen Z looks at that and goes, well, that's a bit rubbish, isn't it? And so we blame Gen Z. We say, well, Gen Z aren't joining because they're on their smartphones the whole time. It's not. Gen Z are pretty switched on, mate. They can do pretty much whatever they want. They're running gigs on the side. They're making some good money, and they don't particularly want to come in and do your shit jobs. That's the truth. For not much pensions, and they can't actually buy a house even if they did make some money. I think Gen Z are more switched on than you realise. I think when they look at how absolutely stupid some of the people in the power positions are, you can't really blame them. Here's a story from the UK. I know it's happening in America as well. There's a student identifying as a cat, and obviously someone said, but you can't be a cat, you're a girl. Teacher goes on about gender is not linked to parts which you're born, and the whole thing was just an absolute joke, and it's not alone. This whole thing, and these are people, these are idiots. These teachers are they're just absolute idiots. And the fact is, we've got these young people looking at this going, this is not right. And if we support this, then we're absolutely a bunch of clowns. I don't know whether to go into the King's Birthday Honours list, but we can if you want to. All I'm saying is that in the military, we start trying to get this demographic in, which tends to be young white men. And they look at things such as the Royal Air Force Birthday Honours list. What they will see is they will see a woman, they will see a woman, they will see a Gurkha man, actually, fair play, a diversity then, shall we say, a white dude, token guy, get in there, mate, no worries, he's a good dude, actually, he's all right. They will see a Sikh. Yep, good. I like Sikhs, good people. And they'll see a woman. And actually, when you do the maths on the demographic of the King's Birthday Honours, with regard to the representation of the service and the build-up of the service, it's very different from what the King's Birthday Honours should actually put out. Now, with the King's Birthday Honours, just so you know, up here, from the government website, then it should give 50% to women, and it does here. 50% of the total are women, and then it will go down. It will say, well, the country is about 20% minority, 20% go to minorities, how many disabled people we are, there we go, blah blah, and it gives them out equally, equal distribution. What the Royal Air Force has done, because it is nefarious in its intent, of course, in promoting women, because it wants 40% women and it wants 20% minorities by 2030, what it's done is it's said, pretty much from what we can tell when we've gone down the honours list, and I have done some paperwork on this, guys, it says that pretty much in the military, in the Royal Air Force, there's 16% women and there are 2.5% minorities, but it seems to have given awards to about 50% of women in the Royal Air Force and 25% minorities from my calculations, and that's primarily to do with the commissioned branches, not necessarily the non-commissioned or what is now called the aviator, not the airman branch. It's the same thing. So vastly inflated those honours and awards for women and for minorities. And this is when you look at your main demographic of white men and you go, oh, people aren't joining because they're not idiots. Gen Z aren't idiots. They realise what's going on. They listen to this. They're like, why would I join? I'm going to be an absolute third-rate citizen if I join the military as a young white man. Crikey, it's absolutely horrendous. Guys, we're going to flick through some pictures and then we're going to leave it because I don't want this to go on too long. I think we see this in the airlines as well in America and here where we have like black programs or whatever, that kind of stuff. We know Qantas has one as well, doesn't it, for the Aborigines. But we're just going to let this comedian just talk to us a little bit about the problem that we're facing and how absolutely absurd it is.
The CEO of United Airlines last month, the CEO, he announced of all the hiring for all the new pilots that are coming up this year, all the hiring for the new pilots, the main focus is going to be diversity. What? Diversity? Not the best pilots you can find? The ones with the most hours of experience? Ones you've done it before? Nope, diversity. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of flying all the time with these white pilots landing safely and on time. Boring.
And that's the point, isn't it? Remember that bit in there where they sort of like laughed about diversity and then he went, hang on a second, diversity guys, do you not want the best pilots? And they went, oh yeah, like fucking seals. Because the truth is, people are inherently stupid. They do not realise what they're doing. They're like, oh yeah, it's good, get black people in an airplane. They do not realise that when you force this, you force one in, if you force one minority or one sex into something, you're being discriminatory towards something else. And that is the problem. That's why it's not fair. That's why it's not equal. That's why my YouTube channel is probably going to get cancelled. So thank you for the donations, tim@fastshipperformance.com. Someone sent me $2,000 actually. This is how women are represented in the military. This is Carol Vorderman, who is the ambassador, used to be ambassador for Air Cadets, I think she might still be. I think that's appalling. I think young women think that's appalling, but that's Carol Vorderman. Fine. This is what we kind of started here, wasn't it? Useless white male recruits and everything. I talked about that in a video before. Go and look at my previous videos. Where this comes from then, it emails from a guy called Stephen Lovegrove, who is the permanent undersecretary, or permanent secretary, sorry, in the civil service, where the activism with the little Marxist is. And you can see back in June, when we were hit with COVID, great time to get stuff out, wasn't it? He starts talking about the tragic death of George Floyd in the US and the profound impact it's had on many of us. Systematic racial equality is not unique to America. And he goes on like that with this rubbish, because now obviously what happens in America is going to have to affect us, isn't it? Deep roots within UK society, including defence. Factually incorrect. That was not true. So they're using it as leverage to divide us apart, because as long as they keep us ranting about this kind of shit, I'm not talking about stuff that's more important, am I? And that is one of the problems. I've been walked off talking about this stuff, guys, and I want to talk to you about that in a second. BAME, we need more BAME, we need more BAME, we need more BAME. How can I get more BAME? Let's get it into the military. Nick Carter, Chief of General Staff, Chief of Defence Staff, sorry, so the senior of the military. Now I remember thinking this will never get into the military. The military, this will bounce off. How wrong I was. How wrong I was thinking that there were strong men at the top of the military, strong women at the top of the military. Fundamentally not true. There was a weakness at the top, absolute lack of integrity in our senior areas of the military, and they allowed this stuff to come through. Flying flags from warships. You've seen my videos about this, guys, all right? You've seen my videos about this. Either way, this comes all the way out now, and they start getting all this champion bullshit comes in, as you know here, and let's get champions in. Champions. The Wonder Horse comes in and all that shit's done. This is Regent Street in London. I'm not even going to put up the National Socialist rallies, Nuremberg, everything else, but you can see what's happening. It's an ideology, guys. This is London. London. This is United Kingdom, London. This is what's happening. If this doesn't make you rally against all this absolute nonsense, I don't know what will. Now, we've got an airline in the UK. Well, not an airline. It's more of a charity. It's more of a charity in the UK. It's called Fantasy Wings, I believe it is. And it's trying to push BAME youth into airlines. And, of course, in doing so, what it doesn't allow is any white people to do it, of course. Why would it? And, of course, it's got these partners here. And the truth is, if we had one of these for white people, then, of course, we'd say that was racist. But you can't be racist towards white people, it seems. There we go. Black, Asian, minority ethnic people, women are underrepresented in the airline pilot industry. Well, maybe they don't want to join. They're underrepresented in society. There's only 20% of people in society are minority. You say, what do you want to do? You go and bring more in. Oh, yeah, you do. That's exactly what we're doing, isn't it? So it's losing troops and people aren't joining. Why are they not joining? It says up top here, numbers plummeting. Fine. The combination is poor. The pay is massively lagging, by the way, and it's hugely lagging. You can work this out. I think you need something like a sergeant in the British Army needs a 17% pay increase. Never going to get it, of course, because they're not healthcare education. Stagnating promotion. Of course, there is. Small numbers means lack of promotion. HR is rubbish. Put dentists in charge of HR now. Equipment, yeah, rubbish. All of it's given to Ukraine now. And about women joining, and don't get me wrong, 40% women in the Royal Air Force, factually unachievable. So I don't even know why we're trying to do that, apart from the fact that the Chief of Air Staff was trying to get his peerage, probably, and that's what he was doing. It's all well and good, and Hannah's right here, of course, saying women should not be in serving combat roles. This includes military employees. This is this guy's opinion. She says, well, Eric, we do, and we do it well. And some women do it very, very well. But the problem with women doing this, of course, and it's not women as such, but they do have children. They do have to have families. And of course, well, men have to have families as well. Yes, but women actually have to carry the baby, unfortunately. We can't change that, no matter whether you think that women have penises or not. And we'll talk about that in a second. Unfortunately, they leave. And what tends to happen when women have children, they tend to not come back, or they go into more administrative roles. So we lose all that kind of training we give them. And when we trained up military fast jet pilots, and I taught a lot of them, they were saying to me, when should I have a child? Straight away, as soon as you can, get it done. And they did, and then they never came back to the cockpit, a lot of them. So you can train up 40% of women in the military if you want to, but just don't expect to be able to retain them. And therefore, what I'm saying is, by all means, have a military where 40% are women, but that military needs to be 1.5 times the size, because you can't backfill. A squadron on Typhoon, for example, 12 pilots, let's say 40% of them are women then. So brilliant, why not? That sounds great, doesn't it? Happy days. And then, well, 2 of them go on maternity leave, and now you've lost 2 pilots out of it. I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. Yeah, I'm Gen X. I remember these times. No willies in that picture. Crazy. Why do we have people in drag reading stories to kids? I just don't know. Satan asks LGBT community to please tone it down. And you're not wrong there. This is, so I get warned off this a lot, and understandably so on my YouTube channel, someone's going to be put in, is the juice worth to squeeze, Tim? Okay, I got sacked from a job, I can't be employed now, I run my own business, I'm highly volatile, the government can come after me anytime, and they do, by the way, and I will literally have no money, I'm going to have to go into a life of crime or something like that. This guy here, Alex, nice dude, says to me, and this I get this a lot, he says, Tim, you know you're over the target when you're getting flack, however, I encourage you to critically evaluate whether the juice is worth the squeeze. This very thing happened in the South African Air Force starting around 2003. White pilots were subject to explicitly stated race-based witch hunts, were told by the base officer commanding that white people had no integrity, the whole base meetings, and placed in impossible situations instructing flying courses where grades did not determine a pass-fail. Equity, the power and momentum of the woke agenda unfortunately surpassed anything reasonable individuals can do. I encourage you to place your energy in something else, blah, blah, and goes on. I understand that. I wrote back to him and said, I get this, Alex. This is the problem I've got. I've got this fairness thing inside me. I don't know where it comes from. I intend to do this, but I keep getting dragged back to thinking of those people in the early 1930s Germany when National Socialism was rising up under Hitler, who could have spoken out but decided not to. I just won't say anything. I'll just hide behind my hand. The truth is, I think it probably will just run its course, and we'll have lots of minorities and lots of women going into aircraft and into jobs, and the whole thing will eventually collapse and become unsustainable. I think it's just it. It is what it is. And he says, yeah, resonate with your philosophy on that. It's a difficult dilemma. So we understand it. What would you do? Well, I know what you're doing because I don't hear you speaking out. That's all I'm saying. Okay, maybe you are speaking out in your workplace. And I did speak to someone in the Royal Air Force recently who said, well, I'm not going to speak out, mate, because the pensions comes up in a few years' time. Yeah, fair enough. You reap what you sow. I haven't got any children. This is not my world you're going into. You're going in your own world. I'm trying to do the best I can.
Once again, to prove that there is no difference between biological females and biological males, we see this female Marine against this male Marine, and watch how it is a completely fair and equal battle. Do you see? See? Exact same.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this now, guys. Thanks for following through on the video. I know that I'm being a bit flippant with it all and everything, but you know what I mean? I don't believe that the quotas with the Royal Air Force are achievable. And until Rich Knighton, the Chief of Air Staff, says that he's not using quotas anymore, I'll still come after him. I'll come after the Royal Air Force. I'll come after the government. I will come after the civil servant, and I expect them to all come after me. Of course they will. Bring it. I know how it's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen, guys. I've got plans. Don't worry about it. So I just would like to say, before the civil service comes after me and before they do what they're going to do, that I do agree that women can actually have penises.
Look at this. Come on. It's a special deck of cards. There's these like little fairies on them. Oh. Here, I'll square it up right here.
Let me see.
Yeah, square it up. Look at the fairies on the back. It's this. It doesn't really.
Cute.
Yeah. Put it on the very edge of the table. Yeah, pull on the very edge.
Right here?
Yeah, right there. You see? Okay. And then lift up that green thing. Go.
Just lift this up?
Yeah, lift that up. Slowly, slowly, slowly.